Sometimes before going out on a plein air outing, I'll do a little research, mainly via Google Maps, just to see what the area might be like and checking out where I can park, is there a good view, and that sort of thing. So I am planning a little river scene, trying to find a local scene close to me, not too far to travel. And using Google Maps, I'm zooming in and focusing on this river here, Little Avon River, which I vaguely know about, just north of me. And I've been looking up and down this river, and I think there's quite a good spot here, just here, close to the M5 motorway. Hopefully it won't be too noisy. But if I zoom in and then, of course, go to a satellite type view where I can get a little bit more of an idea of the location, the vegetation and the river and the woods here, for example, and then go to Street View if I can. Go down to Street View. If Google will just refresh this, if Google would just play ball with me. And here I have zoomed into the scene. So that was the T-junction I was looking at there. So south is that way. And first of all, parking. So there's parking here on the side of the road. Little bit of a bend here in the road as well. There's a bridge here also. That might be quite a nice little view. It may not be an arch bridge. It might be sort of more of a functional modern bridge there. But from that bank here, there could be quite a nice place to paint. So let's go and check it out. Okay, arrived on location, and pretty much as I saw it on Google. Lovely sound of that water. So now just to check out where I can paint from. So of course I'm on the top of the bank here, and just steady the camera a bit. Top of the bank here, and trying to think, can I paint from the top? And also trying to think where the light's coming from as well. So that's quite a nice view there. But there's that private house behind, which doesn't do a lot for me. Light's coming towards me at the moment. Let's just go along here a bit more to my left. Looks like it's a public right of way. little bit of a sort of tributary to the main, well, the mainstream's over there, down there. That's actually quite a nice view. Maybe if I get down at river level. Right, hopefully it won't fall over. Steady as we go. Ah, this is nice. So that's a possibility. Look how dark that is, just beyond the light bush on the left. Light bush on the left, that lovely bit of dark there. Light coming across the surface of the river. Bit of movement in the river. Ripples. Foliage just framing left and right. Yeah, I think this is the spot. Okay, let's get in some outline drawing. Just looking for the main shapes of the lights and the darks. Hopefully you can see I've got some dappled sunlight here. That might, depending on how long I'm here, that might disappear. Starting from almost the top left, there's a little bit of light hitting some gabions on the top left there. With a second level to it, and then there's what looks like nettles. Bunch of light nettles catching the light. Light coming across the surface of the river, shadow on the other side. The far side of the river in the background, I can just about make out it's sort of there, horizontal. This is all dark, or there's a branch catching some light there, and some more up to the top. This is all light. In fact, very light there. Coming down, there are some round leaves towards the bottom left. The edge of the river, sort of like that. It's really light there, really light. Stream coming down from the left, and then these ripples of water. On the right hand side, there are some more plants catching the light. So that's shade. That's shade, but lighter shade. That's quite light. And then some lighter plants catching the light there. Little boulder. Stone in the river on the right hand side, bit of reflections to that. And then coming down over the right hand side, foliage, leaves, branches, that'll frame that side. We'll go quite dark there. Right, I think I'm ready to start painting. My palette is my modified Frank Herring with 4 large painting wells. I've got cadmium red, yellow ochre, neutral tint, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, burnt sienna, lavender, and a cadmium yellow. Starting with, and I've just picked up some water from the river, making it quite authentic. Bits of debris and all sorts floating around it. I think I'm going to wet the whole paper first with this mop brush. I could have used a sponge to speed up the process. There we are, and the sun's just gone in. Doesn't matter. The wind's picked up. Now, quite light. Notice I haven't got a green, so I've got to mix my greens, and just having a couple of blues, a sort of yellow ochre. It's not really yellow, but I classify it as a yellow. We've got 2 blues and 2 yellows, so we can make an interesting combination of greens. Let's start by going in that top left corner, getting in some soft light, and I want to cover the whole scene here. Actually, just in there, there's these gabions. Let's add that in. Continue with the green theme. Just come down to the water level, bright green leaves there, bright green leaves here. River. Brown. Let's mix the brown over here. Burnt sienna. A bit of red. That's a touch of blue. In this bottom left corner where it's just a bit of light coming in, and then continue this brown theme and green reflections on the right hand side. You see with the brush I'm really having that sort of stabbing, prodding motion with it. It's quite humid today. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly this dries. Clear that bead away. Right, a little bit more there. Top left corner, let's add in a little bit of, my brush is wet, I'm gonna have to dry it, a little bit of soft foliage, top left corner. Now it is in the distance, don't want to go too dark. Or too green. I'm using a, what is this? A Skoda Versatile number 10 Sintetico. Continue over, just alternating these. Greens, the intensity of those greens, the variety of those greens, just really mixing in different variations of that blue and yellow. Now, in this section here, it is actually quite dark. You can just about see the top of the bridge, but I'm not going to, it's too much detail. There's a, is it the bridge? There's the top of the road, just about there. That's going to be too much detail. Back to the top of the nettles and quite dark behind the nettles, so I can maximize the contrast. As I'm coming around, this is a lighter patch of foliage here, and just go in a little bit darker behind that, just to give that extra contrast. And then these very dark reflections in the distance. Use my finger to connect the two together. Give a variety of edges in there. And come down again to that light bush on the right. Back to the left, gabions. Now, the sun's gone in. I'm trying to remember how dark were they. Well, it's sort of dark here, and then dark coming down that left-hand side, and then dark coming over. I might go back to my mop brush for this. No, I'll go back to my smaller brush, my Sintético. So, burnt sienna, bit of that cobalt blue, and up to the edge of those nettles. There needs to be a bit of a soft edge on the top of those. Stones, the gabions. I'm just dropping a little bit of clear water, or clearish water, and then continue on down. A little bit of yellow ochre to introduce a bit of variety to the colour of those stones, and back to a darker value. Tiny bit of light hitting this level here, and then darker again. Have to excuse the noise of the road. There's a road right above me, of course, and it seems to be a bit of a shortcut for a lot of people. This plant here in the bottom left it's got these round leaves, so I'm trying to just create the impression of those by painting around the edges of those leads. Right, dark here, down to the water's edge, and a little bit of darkness there in that nettle bush. Let's do that first. Right. Shadow there, up to the edge of those plants. A darker green reflections there. Right, darker shadow here. Underneath the bush on the right, some darker twigs and branches and stuff coming down, and then Some green reflections. Try and get a sense of bit of movement in the water. Continue on down to the bottom. Now in this bottom left corner there's this bit of disturbance in the water. I might need to use a little bit of white paint for that, but first of all let's get in some darker shadows underneath these leaves. And perhaps very dark actually at the water's edge. Back to the right hand side, just give a bit of form to that side of the bank. Just trying to pick out the shapes of the shadows, and they sort of are curving down. Go back up here. Going a lot darker in there. Just below the surface here we can just see the edges of some stones. So smaller brush, that surface is still quite damp, and we'll just define a few of these stones. So quite thick paint. There's a stone over here. Let's imagine that bit of white stuff, that'll be the top of the stone. That's the stone itself, and then some reflections. Right, back to the bottom left corner, which I'm still thinking, how am I going to create the effect of the river running down? Well, there's little ripples in the water, which I will try and emulate with a brush mark. They're not too dark. Bit of burnt sienna. Brush, not too much paint on the brush, and there's sort of little crescents in a way. But smaller, there's sort of like a wave type shape on that far side. Different brush. A long haired Princeton Aqua Elite, which I think might be better to get those little sort of crescent wave shapes coming down the river. Tempted to do a fence up here. There is a little bit of a fence. That might be quite nice silhouetted against the sky. Come back to that in a minute. Where I see the edge too hard, I'll just quickly lift it off with my fingers. A bit darker in there. Just that far side, and then that fence. Which I haven't drawn in, so I'm just winging it. Post. Let's have them not equally spaced, of course, with perspective, and then horizontal. Maybe a second one in there. I never seem to pick quiet spots. Few little extra reflections. Now, top right corner, I want some foliage coming in. Still undecided about this bit, but that might look better when I've got the stream coming down. Use a saw brush and some dark foliage. Well, neutral tint does it for me. Excuse me. Neutral tint. Fully loaded brush. Maybe just a few little twigs and branches. not try to make it too perfect. A few little isolated leaves out in the middle. Now to finish off, try and get in this flow of water down here, and I'm going to reach for my white paint, so watercolor purist, turn the other way. And a brush for this, so I put a bit of white paint on my palette, a bit of white gouache, and I'll need a clean brush for this. So as it goes down, it sort of fizzles out and just a few little dots here and there. And that's about the best impression I can get of that foam and this white water over here. Let's just put in a few little bubbles as they go down the stream. Well, I've got that white paint, add in a few little lighter bits. Just popping their head out in front of that the darker bits. There we are, I think I'm done. There's not a lot more I can do to it. The sun's gone in. It's totally different now to what it was. quite happy with the overall composition. The river, so the Little Avon I think it's called, and the river flowing down, going around a little bit of a bend here. Bit of disturbance in the water. The light when I first arrived, which is totally gone now, and it's about to rain I reckon. But the light coming in from that left, coming up, catching the light hitting this bush here, bit of light coming across the surface, catching some foliage on the right hand side, dark on the top right corner just above me, very dark canopy of trees coming over, light in the top left corner which has now totally disappeared. Anyway, hope you like it. Catch up with you on the next video.